Brian, a few things to cover. It's been a while, it seems, since we've last spoke to you. Just a general update. Where are we at with fans coming back to the stadiums?
Um, not a great deal further on, to be honest with you. Still very frustrated, especially when you see the news this week that the Theatre 7 in Shrewsbury is reopening in an indoor environment with 20% capacity, I believe. These things, the EFL are trying to put a lot of pressure on the government, who don't seem to get that, football's badly affected, badly needs crowds back. Not just for finance, but I think also for every supporter out there would like to get back to football. I severely worry about a lot of people's and their mental health. A lot of our supporters come to the games. It might be in social isolation, and there is a big push from the EFL and us all to try and push to see what we can do to try and get supporters back. The inconsistencies that I've mentioned before absolutely drive me mad. Airplanes, bars, restaurants, churches, cinemas, theatres can open. Yeah, an outdoor sport, an outdoor venue like we have can't open at either 10% or 20% when we've got very strong safety features anyway. But pre-COVID, and we're in a situation that we're not getting any help whatsoever from anybody. And the more the message we can get out to government and to anybody that would care to listen, how important it is for football clubs and for supporters out there to get back to footballs is the main thing. There's only so much the EFL can push government, but my own personal opinion is I don't think the government quite get it. I think they just still think that football's awash with money. I think they think that football's an easy target for them to get plenty of media attention because of the stats, and I think we're being picked on. We've proven in our pilot in September that it can be done. It can be done safely, and it just beggars belief to me. To be honest with you, it's very frustrating.
Suppose another bizarre aspect is it's been allowed that some fans can come to the ground and watch the game behind a curtain and watch it on a screen in some of the hospitality lounges. I know there's been some talk with some of our fans of whether this be a possibility. What's your thoughts on it?
I think it's mental torture, to be honest with you. Come to the stadium, come inside, which is supposed to be less safe. All the guidelines are, if you're meeting people, meet them outside, not indoors. So, we can't have people in seats, yet we can have people in a lounge, social distancing, not able to watch the game which is going on outside, and they know it's going on outside. I honestly just drives me insane. We looked at it, to be honest with you. We looked at the Sovereign Lounge, say, look, is this doable? Would people want to do that? Would they want to come to the stadium and be teased that the football's on outside, and come together and watch it on a screen? Possibly. But when you then take into account social distancing, you could probably get roughly 40 in the Sovereign Lounge. So, and people, I know there were some comments about, the club could be missing a trick to make some money, but if you actually work out the maths, people were to spend, say, 10 quid each on drinks or whatever they would get there, £400, take away the drink cost, take away the VAT cost, take away the loss of streaming, take away the cost of having staff there. It's a lost leader, to be honest with you, to do it. And I just don't think it's right, to be honest with you, that you would bring supporters back into an indoor environment, and it's just basically playing into the hands of what we're all trying to say here is that, why can some indoor places be available to go into, yet football as an outdoor sport can't? Surely it's safer for people to come and sit in a stadium than sit in a lounge outside the stadium where they can't even watch the game. To me, it is just mental torture. I know it would destroy me sitting in a lounge, looking at curtains, hearing a game going on outside, hearing the shouts of the players, the managers, the coaches, etc. Yeah, I can't peek through the curtains and watch the game until I'm going to watch it with a 40-second delay on a live stream on a big screen.
Just a quick one, going back to last season. Have you got an update on the Wall of Fame?
Yeah, I actually spoke to the sign writer on this the other day there just to find out where we were at with it. To be fair, it has been a few weeks now, but we did pass on all the details. The they are blue and amber panels with everybody's name. I think there's roughly 2,700 or 2,800 people's names. I think we all hoped that we would be able to have that up and people in the stadium actually seeing the wall or the blue and amber panels with everybody's name on it. It has now been made. I understand that it's at the stadium. It just needs to be erected. So I spoke to our sign writer the other day there about getting that installed so that everybody who does drive into the stadium for whatever reason, and hopefully in the long term we can get people back to actually see it on a game day as well. So it is all done, and Matt from our media team designed it all. So hopefully we've got everybody's name who very kindly donated to us the last 5 games of the season. And we also included a few people who had bought tickets for the last remaining games but felt that they wanted to donate the monies to the club, which was a fantastic gesture as well. So we're very appreciative to everybody whose names are on the new Wall of Fame.
In terms of the transfer window, how have you found this one's compared to previous transfer windows? Has it been any different for you and how it's worked? Has it been a success in your eyes?
It's certainly been a lot longer than I've ever experienced before. And I think trying to get a bit of clarity on squad lists and squad numbers and salary caps has been more onerous, trying to work that out. I think the window being open and then closed internationally, and then another 10 days or so for it to be domestic, that's been kind of strange. However, it has allowed us to then save some money, shall we say, by bringing players in as late as possible. Even it's a bit strange with the season starting mid-September, I guess. I think there's 12 players we've signed. I think what's been most unfortunate is the number of those that have ended up with injuries. I think a lot of teams are suffering. Speak to a lot of clubs regularly, and I think a lot of clubs are having real problems with injuries and what's caused that and why players are getting injuries. You try and analyse every single thing and think, well, what can we do better? How can we avoid that? But when you look at some of the injuries we've had with broken bones and broken ribs, etc., things that happen in games, then it's nothing to do with warm-ups or anything to do with that. It's more contact injuries. I think that's been the most frustrating thing, that I think currently we've got five of the 12 out injured, 12 new signings. And I think you would try to bring a reasonable size squad. I think the numbers are more or less the same. People think we've got a big squad, but we had the same number of players that we had this time last year in the first team squad. So from that point of view, we're at similar numbers. But when you consider this year, we're going, we've Saturday, Tuesday. I think we've only got one free midweek between now and January. And that's gone back for the last 2 weeks with the midweek games. It's going to be some period of a lot of games. Obviously, we're going to pick up injuries along the way. Hopefully we don't, because we think we've had our fair share of unfortunate injuries in the opening 6 weeks. You look at the numbers we've currently got unavailable to Sam in the squad. So that's a frustration, that we can't field a settled team. We can't field a starting 11 every week. And a lot of that's down to injuries, and it's also been affected by COVID as well, with some self-isolating because of coming into contact with somebody with COVID. So these are all the challenges that we're all facing as football clubs, you say.
I think some fans have been slightly confused by various fixtures changing the kickoff times. A lot of them obviously being brought forward. Is there thought process behind that?
Yeah, there is a thought process behind it. I think I've had a number of emails about that since we changed the Burton game to a 6 o'clock kickoff. And I think it's something we do need to consider more going forward. There are some people who have said that 6 o'clock doesn't suit them because they're not home from work or for whatever reason. But then I've also had emails from people saying they actually prefer the 6 o'clock kickoffs because they can watch the game over their dinner, doesn't go into their evening time with their families. The reason for it is purely on recovery. If you take the Fleetwood game on Tuesday night as an example, for us to travel there, 7:45 kickoff, the players and staff wouldn't be home till probably in their beds 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Whereas if it had been a 6 o'clock kickoff, they would have been back home and in their beds for 11, 11:30. It's just trying to buy a couple of extra hours recovery because of the number of games, because of the Saturday, Tuesday. But I think it is something that we are aware of, that perhaps it doesn't suit every season ticket holder, which we get. as I said there, it does suit some and doesn't suit others. And the only reason we've done it is purely for recovery reasons for our own team. Usually the away team are asking for it. Like, we asked Fleetwood for an earlier kick-off on Tuesday night, but they couldn't do it for other reasons because of their stadium. But I think we also are aware that if other teams are asking us for it, then if we help them out, then hopefully they would then potentially help us out when we go there in the future. You'll see more and more teams trying to play earlier kick-offs. Even the Europa League last night was, a lot of them were 5:30, 6 o'clock kick-offs as well. And I think because of the situation with no fans in stadiums, but obviously it does have a knock-on effect on season ticket holders who maybe can't, are not home from work or whatever in time to watch a 6 o'clock kick-off. And it's something we will review.
Obviously, a season like no other. We've started the season with iFollow. We're still reliant on iFollow. What have you made of iFollow so far this season?
I've had quite a number of emails with various problems from different people. We're always open to try and help people. Sometimes it can be broadband speed, sometimes it can be the code not being applied properly and being charged, but hopefully we've managed to get anybody who's been charged incorrectly. We've been able to get the refund on that. We've spoken to a lot of people. It has settled down slightly, I would say. There are still some issues with it. I didn't go to Portsmouth first game of the season, so I witnessed the Sunderland Bristol Rovers game, which wasn't ideal for 5-10 minutes. And obviously these things are all difficult for us to deal with. I think nobody wants to be watching games in iFollow, but it's the world we're living in just now that we have to just try and make the best of it. And obviously there are improvements to be made, so if we can offer any advice to anybody who is having issues with the streams, then please get in touch and we'll try and offer any advice or get any advice off the EFL digital guys, who, to be fair, are very proactive at giving advice and helping us, and being good with anybody who's, for example, been charged for a stream of a game when they've had a code. Which probably leads me on to the next thing. The codes have started to settle down a little bit, if I'm honest. The EFL then decided that they would change that. There was potentially a better way of doing it by just giving everybody's email address. And there is a slight issue because quite a number of season ticket holders have, for example, it might be all 4 people under one email address, which does cause some problems. So what we're going to do for Tuesday night is we are going to issue the codes at the weekend again for Tuesday night and review it. There are some other slight concerns I have with the new system, which, having settled down a little bit with the codes, seem to be working reasonably okay for most people. I'm slightly anxious about changing the system and then changing people's habits once again. And I'm yet to be convinced that the new system is really going to speed up and help the majority of people. I think people who are tech savvy will be fine with actually being able to operate the new system or the old system with the codes. But we've got a lot of supporters out there who are perhaps less tech savvy, who need a little bit of assistance, and we're obviously hopefully all there to try and help them as much as we can.
A really tough time for everyone and everyone involved in football. I know you can't delve too much into it at the moment, but I know the last week or so you've had to look at everyone at the club, all their positions, and perhaps make a few tough calls.
Yeah, it's been a very, very difficult couple of weeks, if I'm honest. I have been on the other side of the fence before myself, so I totally understand. We've had to look at, the furlough obviously ends at the end of October, and I think if you take as an example, we've had to look at every department and see how we can streamline. We hope that things change and change quickly so that people can return to work. But we have had to make some decisions on staff. We've built up a lot of good staff over the years, very, very loyal staff. And it's heartbreaking to have to, make people redundant through lack of work. We're in the fortunate position that, our staff understand the predicament that we've been in. We've paid everybody for the full 7 months of furlough 100% salaries because we felt it was the right thing to do. I don't think any of us expected that we'd have to be in this situation. October, we went into lockdown and started the start of furlough in March. But no, there's been some very difficult decisions, one that doesn't sit comfortably with me, because you're dealing with people's livelihoods at the end of the day. But all we can deal with is what we know now. And at the moment, furlough is ending this weekend. So therefore, if you take the conference and events, for example, we've got quite a number of staff on full time who were paid for the last 7 months. But, there isn't the facility to do large conferences and events, which basically bring us turnover, which normally helps us financially. But take the double hit of then paying them beyond that full salary, beyond that when there's no work for them to do. It's an unfortunate situation we're in, and it's purely COVID related that we've had to make cuts to try and reduce our costs in the short term, because, as I say, the only thing we know is what we know now, and we can only deal with that as it is just now. So we've had to look at every single department in the club and see where we can cut back and save some money, because if we're in the same situation 6 months' time and we haven't acted, then we're putting the club in more jeopardy than it already is in.
Just finally, Brian, something that perhaps won't help but might be you're aware of is season ticket refunds. What's the club's formal stance on that at the moment?
Well, I think first and foremost, the last thing, we're probably in a worse position than we were ever in the last 6-7 months. If you look at through the COVID situation, we've had no income now for 7 months. The only money we've had is central income from the EFL and a loan, which we obviously have to pay back. We got a pay-as-you-earn deferral for 3 months, which all football clubs got between April and June, which we're now paying back to the revenue. So having had no income now for 7 months, we're now having to pay that back with the deferred cost on top of that. It's not an easy time. The last thing we want to be doing just now is refunding probably £500,000 to £750,000 worth of season ticket money. I think we're all exasperated that after the pilot game with Northampton, we really thought we would accommodate all our season ticket holders. What we have done, like every other club, is supply the codes for iFollow, which the non-season ticket holders are charged £10 for, is some kind of sweetener towards their season ticket. And we appreciate if this goes on for the full season, the 23 games at a tenner adds up to £230, and most people will have paid more of that for their season ticket. We hope that isn't the case, and we strongly believe that shouldn't be the case, that fans should be let back into stadiums sooner rather than later. And we hope that is the case. What we have been doing is we've said to anybody who is through, listen, people are situations have changed. We're coming to the end of furlough ourselves, and we know what it's like as an employer having to let some staff go. So I'm sure there are people in that situation. So we're obviously open to if people want refunds. Obviously, from a selfish point of view, the last thing we need to do is to be shelling out refunds when I'm severely concerned about football finance generally. And I've said this before, but when I start to worry about Shrewsbury Town's finances going forward, then what happens to everybody else? There's been a lot of talk about bailouts, there's been a lot of talk about help from the government, but nothing has been forthcoming. We've been talking about a bailout since July, with the EFL and the Premier League and the government. We've still not got anything. We are in a worse place than we were before. And I appreciate, and we're fully aware that season ticket holders aren't getting value for money just now. What I would say though, if there's any way of helping us through this very difficult time for football, please do. But on the other hand, if you feel that you really would like a refund, then we would obviously look at it. There's been a few people contacting me about the iFollow being free. What all clubs have tried to do, and the EFL come up with this, that at least then if you were giving season ticket holders a code to watch the game free rather than being charged £10, they were getting something for their season ticket. And there's been a bit of chat about how that actually sits, whether we're giving it free or not free. I think there's probably two arguments to that. But what we're trying to do is the best we possibly can by our season ticket holders to give them, because that's all we can do just now, is give people a code for home games. And at least then they're getting to see what live action they can. It's very restrictive and there's really nothing more we can do about it. But obviously, selfishly, I'm conscious that the last thing I want to be doing is refunding money when they were hemorrhaging money just now because of COVID and lack of income.